The silence of space was broken by a gentle hum as the human ship Horizon's Dream approached the massive space station. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck, watching the alien structure grow larger through the thick glass. The station looked like a giant flower made of metal and crystal, spinning slowly in the darkness between stars. First contact, she whispered to herself. After decades of watching alien signals from afar, humanity was finally ready to meet their galactic neighbors. The Horizon's Dream was not an impressive ship. It was small, painted white, and carried no visible weapons. The crew of 12 humans had spent months preparing for this moment. They brought gifts from Earth, paintings, music recordings, books of poetry, and samples of human culture. Everything about their approach said one thing: we come in peace. Elena adjusted her simple blue uniform and walked to the communications room. Captain Rodriguez was speaking with the station's traffic control. The alien voice that answered sounded like wind chimes mixed with whispers. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at Port 7. The Galactic Confederation welcomes you to Kepler Station." Elena smiled. The voice belonged to a Zephyrian, one of the 3 major alien races they would meet today. The Zephyrians looked like tall, graceful beings made of flowing energy and light. They were known for their wisdom and their control over vast trade networks. As the ship docked, Elena could see alien beings moving through the station's corridors. Some looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs. Those were the Hive Collective. Others appeared to be made of living crystal that changed colors as they moved. The Resonance. All 3 races had agreed to meet with humanity today. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Elena stepped onto the station, followed by her small team. The artificial gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth's, and the air smelled like ozone and flowers. Waiting for them was a welcoming committee of aliens. The Zephyrian representative floated toward them. Its body shifted like smoke in the wind, but its face was kind and gentle. "I am High Consul Ethon," it said in perfect English. "We have learned your language from your broadcasts. Welcome to galactic civilization." Elena bowed respectfully. "Thank you, High Consul. I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez, representing the people of Earth. We are honored to be here." Next came the Hive Collective representative. It looked like a 7-foot-tall ant that had learned to walk upright. Its compound eyes reflected the station's lights like tiny mirrors. "I am Speaker of Queen Zaktik," it clicked in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. "The collective is curious about your species." The resonant delegate approached last. It was a beautiful creature that looked like a person made entirely of purple and blue crystals. When it spoke, its voice was like music. "I am Harmony Singer Vextal. Your radio waves have reached our worlds. We find your music interesting." Elena felt a wave of excitement. These beings were so different from humans, yet they seemed friendly and welcoming. "We have brought gifts from our world," she said. "Art, music, and stories that represent the best of humanity." The next few hours were wonderful. The aliens listened to human music with great interest. They examined Earth's paintings and asked many questions about human culture. Elena and her team answered everything honestly. They spoke about Earth's history, its struggles with war and peace, and humanity's dream of joining a larger galactic community. High Consul Ethon seemed particularly interested in human emotions. "Your species shows such passion," it said. "Most races learn to control such feelings as they become more advanced." Speaker of Queens. Zaktik studied the human books with its large eyes. "Individual creativity," it clicked thoughtfully. "In the collective, all thoughts are shared. But humans think alone. How do you coordinate without a shared mind?" Harmony Singer Vextal touched one of the music players with a crystal finger. "Your songs speak of love, loss, hope, fear. Such raw emotion. Most civilized species have moved beyond these primitive feelings." Elena noticed something in their voices. The words were kind, but there was something else underneath. A tone that suggested they thought humans were simple, maybe even childlike. She kept smiling and continued to answer their questions. "We may seem primitive to you," Elena said carefully, "but humans have learned much from our struggles. We believe our emotions make us stronger, not weaker." The aliens exchanged glances. Ethan's energy form rippled in what might have been amusement. "Of course," it said gently. "All young species believe their ways are special." As the day continued, Elena began to pick up on more subtle signs. The aliens spoke to humans the way adults might speak to children. They praised everything the humans showed them, but their praise felt hollow. When they thought the humans weren't listening, Helena caught fragments of their conversations. "So naive," whispered Harmony Singer Vextal to the others. "Perfect for integration." Clicked. Speaker of Queens Zach Tick, valuable resources. Minimal defense, floated from Ethan's direction. Elena's smile never wavered, but her mind was working fast. She had been chosen as Earth's ambassador not just for her diplomatic skills, but for her ability to read people. These aliens were not the benevolent neighbors they pretended to be. The formal meetings would begin tomorrow. Tonight, the humans were given quarters on the station to rest. As Elena prepared for sleep, she activated a small device hidden in her luggage. It looked like a simple communication device, but it was much more than that. Day 1 complete. She spoke quietly into the device. Initial assessment confirmed. They see us as primitives. Proceeding with Phase 2 tomorrow. The device sent her message in a coded burst transmission toward Earth. To any alien sensors, it would look like random background radiation. But somewhere in Earth's solar system, people were listening. People who had been preparing for this moment for much longer than the aliens suspected. Elena smiled as she looked out her window at the stars. The Zephyrians, Hive Collective, and Resonance thought they were dealing with innocent newcomers. They had no idea that humanity had been watching them for decades. They had no idea that every word they spoke was being recorded and analyzed. Tomorrow, the real negotiations would begin. The aliens would make their offers thinking they held all the power. They would learn very soon how wrong they were. As Elena drifted off to sleep, her last thought was of Earth. Beautiful, blue Earth, with its billions of humans who had spent years preparing for this day. The aliens thought they were about to meet a primitive species. Instead, they were about to discover what happened when humans decided to play a very long, very careful game. The peaceful first contact was going exactly according to plan. The second day began with a formal breakfast in the station's main dining hall. Elena and her team sat at a table designed for multiple species. The food was simple, nutrients shaped into familiar forms for human consumption. Across from them, the 3 alien representatives consumed their own meals in very different ways. High Consul Ethan absorbed energy directly from glowing crystals. Speaker of Queen Zach Tick ate something that looked like metal shavings mixed with honey. Harmony Singer Vextal simply held their hands near certain minerals and somehow drew nourishment from them. "Your species requires such complex food preparation," Ethan observed, watching Elena eat her synthetic eggs. "So inefficient. When you join galactic civilization, we can help you evolve past such primitive needs." Elena smiled politely. "We actually enjoy the process of cooking and eating together. It brings families and communities closer." Zach Tick's compound eyes reflected the light as it studied her. "Community bonding through consumption. The collective achieves unity through shared consciousness. Much more efficient than your method." After breakfast, the formal negotiations began in a large conference room. The aliens had prepared presentations about galactic civilization. Elena and her team listened carefully as each representative explained their society. The Zephyrians controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes. They spoke of bringing peace through commerce and cooperation. "War is wasteful," Ethan explained. "Trade brings prosperity to all. We can offer Earth protection from hostile forces in exchange for certain considerations." Elena leaned forward. "What kind of considerations?" "Simple things. Mining rights to your asteroid belt, exclusive trade agreements, perhaps a small base or 2 in your outer system for our protection fleets." Ethan's energy form pulsed gently. Earth would be safe under our guidance. The Hive Collective had a different approach. Speaker of Queens Zach Tick showed holographic displays of their vast industrial worlds. "Individual thought leads to conflict," it clicked rapidly. "The collective offers unity. Humans would become part of something greater than themselves. Integration into the collective." Elena repeated slowly. "What would that involve?" "Simple neural modifications. Humans would keep their individual bodies but share thoughts with the greater mind. No more loneliness. No more confusion. Every human would know their purpose and fulfill it perfectly." Elena nodded as if considering this. "And humans would still have some independence." Zach Tick's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Independence is an illusion that causes suffering. The collective provides true freedom. Freedom from doubt, from fear, from the burden of individual choice." The resonance offered the most subtle proposal. Harmony singer Vextal created beautiful patterns of light and sound as they spoke. Humans possess unique electromagnetic signatures, they sang. Your brain patterns create harmonies we have never encountered. We offer to preserve these patterns forever. Preserve them how? Elena asked. We would record every human consciousness, storing them in our crystal matrices. Humans would live forever in perfect harmony, free from the limitations of biological existence. The crystal being's colors shifted to warm blues and golds. Death would become obsolete. Elena asked more questions, always polite, always interested. She wanted to know about galactic law, about how disputes were settled, about the rights of member species. The aliens answered readily, clearly enjoying their role as teachers to these primitive newcomers. What Elena learned was troubling. Galactic law favored the strong. New species had few rights until they proved themselves worthy. Military might determined political power. The three races she was meeting with controlled most of the galaxy between them. During a break, Elena overheard a conversation between the alien representatives. They had moved to a corner of the room, speaking in what they thought were private communications. Elena's hidden recording devices captured every word. The humans are even more naive than we hoped. Ethan's voice was smug. They actually believe we're offering them partnership. Their questions about galactic law are amusing, clicked Zach Tick. As if law applies to species without the power to enforce it. Vextal's musical voice was cold. Their electromagnetic patterns are unique because they're unmodified. Once we extract what we need, the rest can be disposed of. Which approach do we take? Ethan asked. Why choose one? Zaktik responded. The Zephyrians can strip their system's resources while the collective processes their population. The resonance can harvest their consciousness patterns. Earth is large enough to share. Elena kept her face neutral, but her heart was racing. These beings weren't offering partnership. They were deciding how to divide up humanity like pieces of a pie. When the meeting resumed, Elena continued playing her role perfectly. She asked innocent questions about how other species had joined galactic civilization. The answers were revealing. Most new species were given similar generous offers. Those who accepted found themselves gradually stripped of independence. Those who refused were conquered outright. What about species that wanted to remain independent? Elena asked. The three aliens exchanged glances. Independence is rarely sustainable for developing species, Ethan said carefully. The galaxy can be dangerous for those without proper protection. Dangerous how? Pirates, hostile aliens, natural disasters. The galaxy is vast and full of threats. Young species that try to go alone usually don't survive long. Elena began to understand. These three races didn't just control most of the galaxy through diplomacy. They actively prevented other species from becoming powerful enough to challenge them. The dangerous galaxy they described was dangerous because they made it that way. As the day continued, Elena noticed more details. The station's security was entirely Zephyrian. The technology that kept the station running was Hive Collective. The communication systems were resonant. These three races had divided control of galactic infrastructure between them. That evening, Elena sent another coded message to Earth. She reported everything she had learned, including the aliens' private conversations. The response came back quickly. Understood. Proceed to Phase 3. Elena allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they were manipulating naive humans. They had no idea that Earth had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Tomorrow, they would present their final offers to humanity. They expected grateful acceptance. They were going to be very disappointed. Before sleep, Elena walked to her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were moving toward Earth, confident in their superiority. They thought they were about to claim an easy prize. Earth was ready for them. The question wasn't whether humanity could defend itself. The question was whether these arrogant aliens would survive the lesson they were about to receive. Elena closed her eyes and rested. Tomorrow would be a very interesting day. The third day arrived with false ceremony. The alien representatives had prepared an elaborate presentation for what they clearly expected to be humanity's surrender, disguised as negotiation. The conference room was decorated with symbols from all three alien cultures, and the lighting had been adjusted to make the atmosphere more welcoming. Elena entered the room wearing the same simple blue uniform she had worn since arriving. Her team followed behind her, looking calm and professional. To the aliens, they probably appeared nervous about the important decisions ahead. In reality, they were all former military officers who had been preparing for this moment for years. High Consul Ethan began the proceedings with a speech about the historic day when humanity would join the galactic community. Speaker of Queen's Zaktik spoke about the evolution that awaited human consciousness. Harmony singer Vextal created beautiful light patterns while describing the eternal harmony humans could achieve. Finally, they presented their formal offers. The Zephyrian proposal was wrapped in flowery language about mutual protection and prosperity. In simple terms, Earth would give the Zephyrians exclusive rights to mine the solar system's asteroids and outer planets. In exchange, Zephyrian fleets would protect Earth from hostile forces. The protection would require permanent Zephyrian bases throughout the solar system. Elena read through the document carefully. "This gives you control of all space-based resources in our system," she said. "We prefer to think of it as management," Ethan replied smoothly. "Humans are not yet ready for the complexities of space-based industry. We would handle such burdens for you." The Hive Collective offered integration into the greater consciousness. Every human would receive neural implants that would connect them to the collective's shared mind. Individual thoughts would be preserved but filtered through the greater good. Humans would never feel lonely, confused, or uncertain again. "And if some humans prefer to remain individual?" Elena asked. Zaktik's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Such preferences are symptoms of an underdeveloped consciousness. Once integrated, humans will understand that individuality was holding them back. But what if they still refuse? Refusal would indicate a dangerous mental illness. The collective has treatments for such conditions. The resonant proposal was the most seductive. They offered to upload human consciousness into crystal matrices, where people could live forever in perfect harmony. Physical bodies would become unnecessary. Humans would become part of an eternal song that spanned the galaxy. "The process is completely painless," Vextal sang in their musical voice. "Humans would simply go to sleep in their old bodies and wake up in crystal paradise." "And our physical world?" Elena asked. "No longer needed. The planet could be recycled for more useful purposes once all consciousness has been safely preserved." Elena set down the documents and looked at each alien representative in turn. The moment had come to drop the mask of naive diplomacy. "These are very generous offers," she said in a voice that had suddenly grown colder. "Unfortunately, I must decline all of them." The aliens looked confused. Ethan's energy form flickered uncertainly. "Perhaps you need more time to consider." "No," Elena interrupted. "I understand your offers perfectly. The Zephyrians want to strip mine our solar system. The Hive Collective wants to lobotomize our entire species. The Resonants want to murder everyone on Earth and store copies of our minds like trophies." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Speaker of Queen Zaktik's compound eyes focused on Elena with new intensity. "You misunderstand our generous—" "I understand perfectly," Elena said, standing up. "You think humanity is primitive and helpless. You think we'll be grateful for any scraps you throw us. You've made a serious mistake." Vextal's crystals shifted to angry red colors. "You are in no position to make demands, human. Your species has no power here." Elena smiled for the first time since the negotiations began. It was not a pleasant smile. "I'm not making demands. I'm delivering an ultimatum. You have 72 hours to remove all military assets from Earth's solar system and formally recognize human sovereignty." The aliens stared at her in shock, then burst into what could only be described as laughter. Ethan's energy form rippled with amusement. Zaktik's clicking sounded like breaking glass. Vextal's musical voice turned harsh and discordant. "You cannot be serious," Ethan gasped between ripples. "Your entire species hasn't even left its home system. You have no space military, no allies, no defenses. Earth will be processed within the week." Zaktik clicked coldly. "The collective has 3 battle fleets already moving toward your solar system. Your primitive weapons cannot scratch our hulls. The resonant harvesters are already preparing crystallization chambers," Vextal added. "Your 72 hours will be spent in preparation for consciousness transfer." Elena listened to their threats without changing expression. When they finished, she reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a simple communicator. The aliens watched with amusement as she activated it. "This is Ambassador Vasquez," she spoke into the device. The negotiations have concluded. The galactic powers have rejected our peaceful offer and threatened military action against Earth. She paused and looked directly at each alien representative. Knock. Knock, the device beeped once in acknowledgement. Then Elena placed it back in her pocket and sat down calmly in her chair. What was that supposed to accomplish? Ethan asked, its voice dripping with condescension. A final message to your doomed planet? Insurance, Elena replied simply. For several minutes nothing happened. The aliens continued to mock humanity's desperation. They spoke about how Earth's governments would beg for mercy when the alien fleets arrived. They discussed which parts of human culture might be worth preserving as curiosities. Then the space station's alert sirens began to wail. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the conference room. An automated voice began broadcasting in multiple alien languages. Unknown contacts detected. All ships report to stations. This is not a drill. Ethan's form suddenly solidified as it accessed the station's sensor network. Its confident expression flickered and died. That's impossible, it whispered. Zactic's compound eyes were reflecting the emergency lights like 1,000 tiny mirrors. The sensors must be malfunctioning. Vextal's crystals had turned a shocked white color. There are ships out there. Hundreds of ships. Where did they come from? Elena stood up again, her calm demeanor unchanged. 71 hours and 57 minutes remaining, she said quietly. I suggest you start making some calls. The aliens stared at her in growing horror as their scanners detected massive energy signatures surrounding the space station. Ships were decloaking from every direction, ships larger than anything in the galactic databases. This is impossible, Ethan repeated. Your species doesn't have the technology. You've been watching our public broadcast for decades, Elena interrupted. Did you really think that was all we were capable of? Outside the conference room windows, space itself seemed to be rippling and changing as enormous shapes materialized from nothingness. The peaceful first contact was officially over. It was time for humanity to introduce itself properly to the galaxy. The space around Kepler Station transformed into something that defied belief. What had been empty void moments before now swarmed with ships that materialized from invisible hiding places. The electromagnetic distortions that accompanied their decloaking sent waves of interference across every sensor on the station. High Consul Ethan pressed against the conference room window, its energy form flickering wildly as it tried to process what it was seeing. This cannot be real. Our sensors detected nothing. How long have they been there? Elena checked her wrist device with casual indifference. About 6 hours before I arrived. They've been watching every moment of our negotiations. The first ship to fully materialize was clearly the fleet's flagship. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest Zephyrian dreadnought. The hull was black as deep space but covered in lines of blue energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Along its sides, symbols glowed in Earth's ancient languages, Chinese characters, Arabic script, Latin letters that spelled out indomitable. Contact the battle group commanders. Zactic clicked frantically into its communication device. We need immediate reinforcements at Kepler Station. I already tried, Vextal sang in a voice full of fear. Something is jamming our long-range communications. The human ships are blocking all signals except their own. More ships kept appearing. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and vessels of unknown design. Elena counted at least 200 ships, and more were still decloaking. The alien representatives watched their confident negotiations turn into a nightmare. A new voice filled the conference room, broadcast from the flagship. It was calm, professional, and completely human. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet, commanding the TDF Indomitable. Unknown alien vessels are present in Terran-protected space. You have 30 seconds to identify yourselves and state your intentions. Ethan's form was now shaking visibly. Terran-protected space? This is neutral territory. Elena smiled that cold smile again. Not anymore. Earth formally claims this system under the right of conquest established by your own galactic laws. We've been monitoring your legal codes for decades. You can't claim territory without the power to hold it, Zactic protested. But its voice lacked conviction. Can't we? Elena gestured toward the window where more human ships were still appearing. Admiral Chen's voice returned. Alien vessels, you have failed to respond to lawful requests for identification. Under Terran defense protocols, you are now considered hostile. Prepare to be boarded and searched This is High Consul Ethan of the Zephyrian Republic. Ethan finally managed to transmit. We are conducting diplomatic negotiations. Negative, Admiral Chen interrupted. Our monitoring of your private communications indicates conspiracy to commit genocide, slavery, and resource theft against a sovereign species. These are war crimes under galactic law. Elena enjoyed watching the aliens' faces as they realized their private conversations had been recorded. You didn't think we'd come to negotiations without proper surveillance, did you? The station shook slightly as human ships moved into docking positions. Through the windows, they could see armored figures in EVA suits attaching boarding tubes to the station's hulls. The Terran troops moved with military precision that spoke of extensive training and experience. How? Vextal whispered. Your species has never left its star system. You have no space technology. That you knew of, Elena corrected. Did you really think a species that could broadcast radio signals across interstellar space couldn't build spaceships? We've been monitoring galactic communications for over 50 years. Every signal you sent, every ship movement, every military deployment, we recorded all of it. She activated a holographic display that showed detailed schematics of Zephyrian, Hive Collective, and resonant ship designs. We reverse-engineered your technology from the electromagnetic signatures of your fleets. Then we improved it. Human engineering tends to be more efficient than alien designs. Zactic was frantically operating its personal communicator, trying to reach the Hive Collective fleets that were supposedly approaching Earth. The battle groups aren't responding. Something's wrong. They're a little busy right now, Elena said casually. Admiral Nakamura's Third Fleet is currently explaining galactic law to them. Specifically, the parts about invading sovereign space. Admiral Chen's voice returned. Boarding complete. Station secured. All alien personnel will remain in current positions until debriefing is complete. The conference room doors opened to admit 6 humans in advanced combat armor. Their equipment looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Energy weapons, full helmet displays, armor that seemed to bend light around it. The aliens stared in shock as these supposedly primitive humans demonstrated technology they didn't recognize. Ma'am, the squad leader said to Elena, the station is secure. No hostile actions detected. All alien crew are cooperating. Thank you, Sergeant Martinez, Elena replied. Please maintain security positions until we conclude our negotiations. She turned back to the 3 alien representatives, who looked like their worlds had just collapsed around them. Now then, where were we? Oh yes, you were explaining how you intended to carve up humanity between your 3 species. I believe the exact quote was, Earth is large enough to share. Ethan's energy form was barely holding together. You've been lying to us from the beginning. We've been honest about everything important, Elena corrected. We told you we came in peace. We told you we wanted to join galactic civilization. We told you about human creativity, emotion, and determination. You chose to interpret those traits as weaknesses. But your ship, Zactic clicked weakly. It was so small, so primitive. The Horizon's Dream. It's exactly what we said it was, an exploration vessel. We never claimed it was a warship. You assumed we had no military because we didn't bring guns to a diplomatic meeting. Elena walked to the window and looked out at the massive fleet surrounding the station. This is what humans do when we're not being diplomatic. We prepare. We plan, we watch. And when someone threatens our home, we respond with overwhelming force. Vextal's crystals had turned a sickly green color. The other galactic powers will never accept this. They'll unite against Earth, will they? Elena asked. Admiral Torres is currently having similar conversations with the Vegan Collective, the Andromeda Alliance, and the Centauri Federation. Funny thing about bullies, they don't stick together when someone finally stands up to them. She activated her wrist device again. Admiral Chen, please give our guests a demonstration of Terran defensive capabilities. Copy that, Ambassador. All ships weapons test. Fire on my mark. Through the windows, they watched as every human ship simultaneously charged its weapons. Energy built along hull-mounted arrays that dwarfed anything in the alien databases. Target drones were deployed at safe distances. Mark. Space lit up like a newborn star as 200 human warships fired in perfect synchronization. The target drones simply ceased to exist, vaporized by energies that registered off the scale of alien sensors. In the sudden silence that followed, Helena's voice was quiet but clear. 70 hours remaining. I suggest you start making those calls to your homeworlds. And this time I recommend you tell them the truth about what you're facing. The aliens stared out at the fleet that had appeared from nowhere, wielding technology that shouldn't exist, commanded by a species they had dismissed as primitive. For the first time in their long history of galactic dominance, they were afraid. The next 68 hours transformed the galactic political landscape forever. What had begun as a simple first contact between primitive humans and advanced aliens became the moment when the old order died and something new was born. Elena remained on Kepler Station during the countdown, no longer pretending to be an innocent diplomat. She worked openly from a command center that the human Marines had established in the station's main operations room. Screens showed the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy, and communication arrays kept her in constant contact with Earth's actual military leadership. High Consul Ethan, Speaker of Queens Zactic, and Harmony singer Vextal watched in growing horror as reports came in from across the galaxy. Every major alien power was reporting contact with human fleets. Ships that had supposedly never existed were appearing at strategic locations throughout known space. "This is impossible," Ethan kept repeating. "We monitored your system for decades. We saw no evidence of advanced industry." Elena looked up from a tactical display showing human fleet positions. "You monitored our public broadcasts and the space around our home planet. Did you ever check the asteroid belt? The gas giant moons? The outer system bodies beyond your sensor range?" The truth was becoming clear to the aliens. Humanity had built its fleet in the dark spaces between worlds, using resources and techniques that alien surveillance had never detected. While Earth appeared to be a single-planet civilization, humans had actually been expanding throughout their solar system for decades. "The Vegan Collective has agreed to recognize Terran sovereignty," reported Admiral Chen from the flagship. "They're withdrawing their fleets from the disputed border zones. The Andromeda Alliance is requesting formal diplomatic relations," came another report. "They want to discuss mutual defense agreements." "The Centauri Federation has expelled all Zephyrian trade representatives," added a third voice. "They're asking if Earth is interested in replacing the Zephyrian trade networks." Each report was another nail in the coffin of the old galactic order. Species that had been dominated by the three major powers for centuries were suddenly switching sides. The appearance of human military strength had given them hope that the balance of power could finally change. Zactic was having its own communications problems. "The home colonies aren't responding to integration protocols. Something is interfering with the collective consciousness." Elena smiled. "That would be Dr. Patel's team. Human cybersecurity experts have been studying your shared mind technology for years. Turns out it's vulnerable to the right kind of electronic interference. Individual Hive Collective members are thinking for themselves for the first time in their lives. You're destroying everything we've built." Vextal sang in a voice filled with anguish. "We're giving people choices," Elena corrected. "Choice is a human concept. You might want to learn about it." With 12 hours remaining in the ultimatum, the aliens finally received word from their home governments. The messages were not what they had expected. The Zephyrian High Command ordered Ethan to accept whatever terms the humans offered. 3 separate Zephyrian fleets had been confronted by human forces and found themselves completely outgunned. The Zephyrian military, which had dominated space for 1,000 years, was suddenly obsolete. The Hive Collective Queen sent a fragmented message that took Zactic several attempts to understand. The interference with their shared consciousness had caused chaos throughout their space. Individual collective members were making independent decisions, forming their own governments, even rebelling against Queen authority. The monolithic unity that had been the collective's strength was crumbling. The resonant chorus transmitted a mathematical harmony that Vextal interpreted with obvious distress. The resonance had detected human technology that could manipulate crystalline matrices directly. Their method of consciousness storage, the foundation of their immortality claims, was no longer secure. Humans could potentially free stored consciousnesses or even delete them entirely. "It's over," Ethan whispered, its energy form dim and flickering. "Everything we've worked for, everything we've built, it's finished." Elena stood up from her command station and walked over to the 3 aliens. Her expression had lost its cold calculation and returned to something resembling the diplomatic warmth she had shown on the first day. "It doesn't have to be over," she said gently. "It just has to be different." She activated a holographic display that showed a new map of the galaxy, Instead of three massive empires dominating countless smaller species, the map showed dozens of independent territories. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy, Elena explained. We want the galaxy to rule itself. Every species gets to choose its own path. No more forced integration. No more consciousness harvesting. No more strip mining of primitive worlds. And if we refuse? Vextal asked. Then you become like any other galactic power, Elena replied. One voice among many, instead of three voices controlling everything. The new treaty was drafted over the following hours. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of conquest and subjugation, it established principles of sovereignty, self-determination, and mutual respect. Species could choose their own governments, their own development paths, their own allies. The Zephyrians would keep their existing territory, but lose their exclusive trade privileges. The Hive Collective would govern only those members who chose to remain integrated. The Resonants could continue their consciousness research, but only with willing volunteers. Most importantly, the treaty established the Terran Defense Fleet as a peacekeeping force. Any species that attempted to conquer or enslave another would face human intervention. You're making yourselves the police of the galaxy, Zaktik observed. We're making ourselves the guardians of freedom, Elena corrected. There's a difference. As the 72-hour deadline approached, delegations from dozens of species arrived at Kepler Station. The small neutral outpost became the temporary capital of a new galactic order. Representatives who had never been allowed to speak for themselves suddenly found their voices heard and their rights respected. When the deadline expired, Elena made one final broadcast to the assembled fleets. The age of galactic empires is over, she announced. The age of galactic democracy begins now. Admiral Chen's voice followed from the flagship. All alien military forces have 48 hours to withdraw to their home territories. Any violations of the new territorial boundaries will be met with immediate response from Terran defense forces. The fleet around Kepler Station began to disperse, but not to return to Earth. Human ships spread out across the galaxy, taking positions at strategic points where they could respond quickly to any violations of the new order. As Elena prepared to return to Earth aboard the Horizon's Dream, she took one last look at the space station where everything had changed. The three alien representatives watched her go with expressions of defeat, confusion, and perhaps a small amount of respect. How long have you been planning this? Ethan asked as she reached the airlock. Elena smiled one final time. Ever since we detected your first signal 53 years ago. Humans don't like bullies, and we really don't like being underestimated. The small diplomatic ship detached from the station and began its journey home. Behind it, the galaxy was already changing. Species that had been silent for centuries were finding their voices. Trade routes that had been monopolized for millennia were opening to new partnerships. The rigid hierarchy of galactic civilization was transforming into something messier, louder, and infinitely more free. Earth had come to the galaxy in peace. When peace was rejected, they had come with war. Now that war was over, they offered something the galaxy had never known, the chance for every species to write its own destiny. The age of human dominance had begun, but it was a dominance built on liberation rather than conquest. For the first time in galactic history, being strong meant protecting the weak rather than exploiting them. And in the vast reaches of space, the Terran Defense Fleet maintained its watch, ensuring that freedom once gained would never be lost again.